Welcome to the How to CEO show. I'm your host, Murray Newlands. When you decided to become a CEO, the world changed. You can either build an amazing company or you can crash and burn. We're here to give you the knowledge, advice, and expertise you need in order to build that amazing company. I'm delighted to be joined today by Carrie Ransom from OC4 Venture Studio, who's going to be talking about why CEOs should care about venture studios and what they need to know and how to work with one successfully. Thank you very much for joining the show. Please do introduce yourself.
Thanks, Murray. Great to be here.
Thank you.
As you mentioned, I am leading a new venture studio that we recently established here, and this is been a long journey after a number of startups that I've been a part of or done over the last almost 20 years. And I think the realization after that was that there are a whole host of capabilities, services, and needs that exist as you're trying to get a company off the ground and scaling. And that all of those are not, I think, equal in value, equal in importance. And particularly, I think we found that there are a couple types of CEOs that really benefit from understanding venture studios. So I can talk a little bit about that, and we can go deeper if you'd like.
Yes.
The first is what I would call a new startup CEO. So,
Right.
Or first time startup CEO, because in many cases, as I think we all classically are taught, you sort of know what you know, and you don't always know what you don't know.
Yes.
And by partnering with a venture studio, like in our case, my partner and I and our extended network have worked on, touched, invested in, advised dozens, if not hundreds, of startup companies. So we have pretty good pattern, pretty good library of plays and experiences to draw from. And we can both evaluate the viability of an idea in the early stages as an investor would, but we can also help orient the entrepreneur to what some of the key proof points or important priorities should be at those early stages. Is there a key technical hurdle that needs to be determined if it's possible to overcome? Is this a core customer need that you've clearly been able to identify that people are willing to pay for? How should you go do some go-to-market testing in some early stages? And that isn't things like, where should I put my office? What should I use for payroll? Who should I hire as my attorney? And those are not all of equal importance.
Right.
And so what we find with first-time founders is they don't always intuitively understand that. And having a partnership like working with someone like us, we can show them that there are very different things that have different levels of value, and we can take off of their plate the things that are necessary but not that strategic and not that important. And so we have stood up all of those support services, as an example, that need to get done as you start to build a business, but aren't going to be the difference between winning and losing, between, as you said, it thriving or crashing and burning. And so we try to really focus people on the things that matter. And what we find, because we also are investors in these businesses when we decide to get involved, is that the founders that really start to understand that have a high potential to be a great partner with us. The ones that feel like they need to go learn every one of these things and make every one of these decisions are not the ones that we want to get involved with. And so that sort of sorts its way out. So that's on the first time founder. What we find on the more experienced entrepreneur is that they actually see tremendous value in the studio because it allows them to move that much faster.
Right.
They may know all of those key decisions, but they just don't want to have to deal with it.
Yeah.
They don't want to have to go deal with hiring HR or setting up payroll or accounting. They know this is a product that we need to build to go serve this market, and here's how we're going to go do it. And they look at it as a great partnership to just have somebody like us alongside and be able to be part of a community of others that are doing that. After going through a number of startups, and I've been a CEO before, even if you have a great team, it is still a lonely job. And to even be around another group of people who are in common space, you have many more of those high value serendipitous collisions that lead to good strategic breakthroughs. And so we're seeing even experienced entrepreneurs saying, this is really interesting. Tell me more about this model. So I think that on a broader basis, as I've talked to a lot of other studios around the country, that's what they are experiencing as well.
Because even if you just said, hey, I'm a CEO, all of these tasks I can pay an admin to do. At the end of the day, you're still paying someone to do it. You're still, and that paying is still coming out as equity. Whereas if someone has it really tightly together, they can pull that through. They can just deliver that. That makes a huge difference. And then
that's right. And some of those we're not, we look at it as like we're not trying to make money on a lot of those services. They just need to be, to your point, they just need to be efficiently delivered. You get benefits from efficiency and scale. And even as we think about space, we're not trying to be a co-working real estate model where we make money on the real estate. We're just trying to do, hey, this is a cooperative. Let's share in the cost. We've already built it out. We've already got the investment. Let's just share it. We want aligned interest around the equity value of the company. Right. So we want an equity stake. We're going to invest in the companies that we work with as well. And so we have models in which we want as close to perfectly aligned interest with the ultimate success of the business as possible. And I think that we find is working well versus being looked at as a service provider or a vendor.
And it's another stage of validation for a company. Hey, I've got an idea. I'm getting a product together. Okay, the venture studio is committing to me. They're believing in me. Because you can only take so many startups in. Having that extra stage of validation and improvement, and also, I would imagine just building network. So talk about network around the studio.
Yeah, that is one of the core areas of value. I'll give you an example. We have a data science leader who is a partner with us in our studio, who recently left one of the larger, I'll call it one of the larger gig economy platforms.
Right.
And he was the head of data science there. He had a team of many dozen people that he built. And he is world-class, absolutely world-class. And he's inaccessible to almost every company on this planet, but he is absolutely inaccessible to early stage founders.
Right.
But he loves to roll up his sleeves. He loves to get involved in those kinds of projects. And through a platform like ours, he can work very fractionally across a half of a dozen companies and roll up his sleeves and get involved. And they get the benefit of that amazing expertise at a, the fact that they even get it is super valuable. Then getting it at a significant discount, significant fraction of the cost because of that networked relationship. And it's not just an advisor who flies by, dispels a couple points and walks away. This is a person who's, committed and is committed to their long-term success and has a regular cadence. And we look at that across a number of key areas that are important. So one of the strategies of the studio is to have a somewhat thematic approach where we are primarily focused, in our case, on data-centric SaaS businesses that have a good pathway toward personalization, predictive, machine learning, AI types of capabilities, but that there's a heavy software and either core data into the value of the software or a data exhaust that's comes from it. And that allows for us to really orient around the value of data science, machine learning, AI, how we do engineering and architecture, how we do data management. So there's so many elements then that we can reuse as best practices. And as you know, the pace of change is just happening so rapidly in a number of these areas that even somebody who founded a company 4 or 5 years ago, even if they're really strong in that area, it could be that things have fundamentally changed. So we're working really hard through network to make sure we have people that are on the front edge that understand what's happening and is the best platform for me to work with today still AWS, and should I be really putting it all there, or should I be looking at Microsoft now? Have they really made a breakthrough because of this context or this use case or this customer base that I'm trying to go after? And so we continue and really look at our network and our network development as a core part of the value that we have to build and deliver. And it's not, here are all the relationships we have, it's all the ones that we will continue to go build on a go forward basis.
That's phenomenal, and I like the fact that it's deep in one technical area as well, because that will give you a real focus. And as you build network, the power of that network and the focus, and working with other startups who are going to make other connections who will be good for them and good for the team. That's pretty amazing. So who else do you see doing a great job in the venture studio space?
Yeah, there are a number. It's been really fun to get to know a number of the other studios around the country. I spent a tremendous amount of time last summer with the folks at High Alpha in Indianapolis, which is a great group that's doing a lot of things in the SaaS world. There's a really compelling one out of Seattle called Pioneer Square Labs that we've started to get to know and really like the folks there and their strategy. There are ones up in LA, not far from us. Science is one that's been around for a while. Dollar Shave Club and some other great successes have come out of there. And you've got the original in Pasadena, which was Idea Lab. That is sort of in some respects, the grandfather of all the studio kinds of the concepts. There's a good one down in San Diego called Analytics Ventures that is all around AI. So there's a nice collection of folks that have emerged and really are collaborating in a really healthy way, even though most of us have started from a different initial strategy of what we were trying to solve for. A big part of how we ended up where we did was we looked at the community that we were in and saw a number of entrepreneurs who really needed a broad set of help, and that we could do that in a collective way by putting a lot of the capabilities we brought together and allowing them access as a group to that capability.
No, that's fantastic. If people want to connect with you, how do they do that?
Yeah, I'm very accessible on LinkedIn. Is probably the primary place I am on social media. I am not as great at email right now, just because we've been deluged by interest, which is a good problem to have. But always available on email, or you can find us at OC4 Venture Studio or OC4V.com, and I'm Kerry at OC4V.com. So that's probably the best ways to find me. But LinkedIn is probably the easiest, fastest way to track me down.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks for having me, Murray.
I'm Murray Newlands. You've been listening to the How to CEO show. Thank you for subscribing, and I'll look forward to chatting to you next time.